Hey creepers, welcome to the Mrs. Night Terror channel. Join me as I tell you spooky, shocking, and scary bedtime tales. Each story I tell is a fictional narrative, so don't worry too much about it coming true. If you think you can Today I have a truly terrifying story for you that'll send shivers up your spine. So grab a blanket, turn off the lights, and let's get started with this not so true crime nightmare. Tonight's tale is called Sister Celeste. In the small picturesque town of Solterra, nestled between the rolling hills and lush green forests, there stood a church that had been part of the heart of the community for centuries. This church was more than just a place of worship. It was a sanctuary, a place of hope, and a home to Sister Celeste, a nun who epitomized purity and devotion. Celeste had been given to the church at a young age, her family believing she was the chosen one, destined to serve the divine. Raised by the nuns and priests of the church, she grew up with a deep, unwavering faith and a sense of purpose that transcended the ordinary. By the time she turned 18, she had become a symbol of holiness and virtue in Solterra, her serene presence inspiring all who met her. She lived at the church with a few other nuns. Each woman had their own room, a small space to call their own. But most of the free time was spent in Celeste's room. Her door was always open, and she always welcomed to have visitors. Her fellow sisters would spend all day and night with Celeste. Even the townspeople were impacted by her, and would often leave flowers at the church for her. One fateful day, a man named Adrian arrived at the village. He was handsome, confident, and possessed a charm that could captivate anyone. He came with a bold proposition: to purchase the church and convert it into a history museum that told the story of the village. The idea of losing the sacred place that had been her home for many years since her childhood saddened Celeste deeply. She couldn't fathom the thought of the church being repurposed or stripped of its sanctity. Determined to prevent the sale, Celeste devised a plan to convince Adrian to look elsewhere for his museum. She approached him with her concerns, hoping to appeal his sense of respect for the church's significance. However, Adrian was not easily swayed. He saw the church as a prime and only location good enough for his project, and was intent on obtaining it. Adrian was charmed by Celeste. He liked her passion. He liked that she loved the church and had faith that she could save it. For many days, Celeste would visit Adrian at the local inn where he was staying while in town. Each day she stayed a bit longer, finding herself locked into what Adrian had to say. His smooth words and confident demeanor slowly broken down her senses. For the first time in her life, she felt a stirring within her that she had never experienced before, feelings of attraction and desire. It confused and flustered her, for she had dedicated her life to purity and divine service. Yet there was something about Adrian that drew her in, even as she tried to resist. The sale was to be final the following day. Celeste knew she only had one last chance to stop the sale. She prayed for hours before visiting Adrian. She was determined to keep the church and its significant presence in the village. Celeste knocked on Adrian's door. He quickly opened the doors as if he was there already waiting. His long black hair flowed behind him as his bare chest took center stage. Celeste backed away. "Oh, excuse me," she said. But Adrian assured her everything was okay and invited her inside. "Please clothe yourself," said Celeste as she bowed her head. As Adrian put on his shirt, he proposed a deal. If Celeste agreed to go out with him, he would reconsider buying the sacred land. Torn between her duty to the church and the unexpected emotions she felt, Celeste firmly refused his advances, her faith and commitment to her vow stronger than the temptations Adrian presented. Despite her refusal, Adrian proceeded with the purchase and began transforming the beloved church into a museum. Surprisingly, Adrian asked Celeste to remain in the building. It would be a slow transformation, and he wanted her blessed touch to remain as long as it could. Celeste wavered at the idea. She loved the church, but she also wasn't sure about remaining. But she wasn't ready to leave. She agreed to stay as long as she was able to continue life as it was for her. She wanted her acts of service and prayer circles to remain, and for her room to be left untouched. Adrian agreed to all of Celeste's demands, promising her that nothing would change. Months passed. Everyone had moved to the new church across the state. It was much bigger and quite established for being only a few years old. Celeste began to feel unwell. Her strength waned, and she was plagued by an illness that seemed beyond the help of ordinary medicine. At first, she thought her illness could be due to her undeniable sadness. But when she started losing weight, she knew that something more was happening. In an act of desperation, she turned to Adrian. She asked him to take her to the hospital. Instead of taking her to medical professionals, though, Adrian offered to help her himself. He told Celeste that his father was one of the best doctors in the state, and to get better, she needed to stay with him at his home where his father also lived, and has the best medical supplies available. Celeste agreed. She packed a few belongings, and they traveled over the mountain to a house bigger than she had ever seen. It was multiple levels with balconies on every floor. A man came out to assist Celeste and took her to a gorgeous bedroom adorned with lively fabrics and beautiful crystals. The man gave her herbs and mysterious concoctions, praying over her with words that sounded ancient and powerful. Sometimes Adrian would join him as they held hands and hovered over her body. When Celeste asked what kind of prayer it was, Adrian smiled enigmatically and said it was the most holy prayer in the land. Too weak to argue, Celeste accepted their help, and over the next few weeks she gradually recovered. However, as her strength returned, so did her clarity of mind. She began to notice strange occurrences and unsettling signs. Adrian's prayers had a dark undertone, and the herbs he provided seemed to have more than just healing properties. Oftentimes, she felt euphoric after drinking her morning tea, which Adrian said was infused with a special healing elixir. One night, as the moon cast eerie shadows across the walls, Celeste confronted Adrian. Her eyes, once filled with innocence, now bore steely determination. "What have you done to me?" she demanded. She tried focusing on Adrian, but she had double vision, another side effect from the drink that he had been giving her. Adrian's charming facade faded, revealing a sinister glint in his eyes. "You're clever, Celeste," he said softly. "I'm not just a man, but you know that, don't you?" Celeste backed away. She knew better than to trust this man. How could she have been so foolish? Everything made sense now. The lustful feelings, the deep determination. Was he even devout? She knew the devil was always working, but she just didn't see this coming. Horror washed over Celeste as the truth sank in. The man who she had trusted, who had healed her, was in fact her greatest enemy. Desperate, she invoked her own prayers, calling upon the divine protection that had always been within her shield, but her prayers seemed weak, unable to counteract the dark magic that had tainted her. "Please," she begged, "let me go. Let me join the others from the church at their new place of worship." Adrian shook his head, his eyes gleaming with evil delight. "You are no longer holy, Celeste. You belong to me now," he yelled as he slammed his fist down. Unsure of what she meant, Celeste tried to flee. Surprisingly, Adrian did not stop her. "Go," he said with a chilling smile, but you will be back." Celeste begged the closest neighbor to take her to the church where her former congregation now worshipped. As she entered the church, a searing pain spread across her skin. She stumbled, her vision blurring, her body racked with agony. Her skin began to lose its color, a sickly pallor taking over as if she was turning into a zombie. The holy ground rejected her, and she could not stay. Each nun ran down the stairs to approach Celeste, but they were shocked by lightning each time they stepped towards her, pushing them further away from her now frail and failing body. Terrified, Celeste fled the church, her once vibrant form now a grotesque shadow of itself. As she ran outside, gasping for air, she saw Adrian waiting for her, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "Come home, my darling," he said softly, as he extended his hand. "It's time to go home." With no other choice and her spirit broken, Celeste took his hand. Her faith had been her strength, but now she was lost, bound to the demon that had ensnared her. The church that had once been her sanctuary was now a place she could never return to, and her soul was forever marked by the darkness that Adrian had brought into her life. And as we draw the curtains on this chilling tale, our hearts still racing and our minds haunted by the echoes of the unknown, remember that the darkness we've explored is but a glimpse into the abyss that dwells within us all. In the realm of the mysterious, we find both terror and fascination, and in these shadows, we confront the depths of human nature in the uncharted territories of the universe. Thank you to each and every creeper out there who takes their time to listen to my horrifying stories. Remember to follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and X. And fear not, as we step back into the realm of the familiar. Let the shivers down your spine remind you that life's greatest mysteries are the ones that keep us awake at night, asking us to peer into the abyss and challenge the boundaries of our understanding. Until next time, dear listeners, may your dreams be undisturbed, and may you find solace in the light of day. Good night and sweet dreams, if you dare.